McCUISTION, talking about things that matter with people who care. Production of McCUISTION is made possible in part by individual viewers. Supporters of the Foundation for Responsible Television. The Hatton W. Sumner's Foundation for the Study of Teaching and Self-Government. Hillcrest Foundation, founded by Mrs. W. W. Caruth. And Collin County Business Press, locally relevant, personally profitable.
On 2 previous programs, we've examined the causes of the economic problems and where we are now. Now, you can see these programs on our website at frtv.org. This program, however, is designed to help you take quick, positive steps to protect yourself and your families from further financial damage. Now, here to share their expertise with you are our panelists. Starting on my left is Ed Douglas. He's a career banker where he serves as Chairman Emeritus of a $1 billion Missouri bank holding company. He's an expert on personal finance. He holds a CFP and is the author of 2 books, including this one, which is called The Money Marathon, 7 Simple Steps to Financial Freedom. Ed, welcome back to the program from Missouri.
Thank you.
I think you're going to have a lot to tell us here because we certainly need your help at this point, I guarantee you that. Now, sitting next to him is Kim Snyder. After making a small fortune by the age of 31 and losing it by the age of 33, Kim Snyder decided to get smart about money. And today, she's an author, a speaker, and has her own radio talk show every week. She's also the founder and CEO of Snyder Advisors. They're an SEC-registered investment advisor in Dallas. And her new book is this one, How to Be the Family CFO, and it was released in October of 2008. Kim, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Dennis. Glad to be here.
Okay, so the question has to come up, other than to try to make $1 jillion, why did you write this book?
Well, I'll try to give you the Cliff Note version because the book really does start with the story, which is, when 20-some-odd years ago, I'm sad to say now, it's been that long ago, but I was fortunate enough to go to work for a company headquartered here in Dallas that was growing like a weed, made all kinds of money when the company went public. Long before the dot-com era, when that became all the sort of the norm, but not knowing anything about how to manage money, certainly money of that sort of magnitude, I did the thing that seemed most reasonable to do. I turned it over to one of the big-name brokerage firms, the name of which you almost certainly know unless you've lived your life under a rock, but which is no longer in existence under that name. And they proceeded in the course of 2 years to lose everything that I didn't manage to spend.
Well, I'm losing everything I didn't manage to spend either, but I have to tell you that you know the definition of a stockbroker. You're sort of a you're really not a stockbroker.
I'm not a stockbroker.
But there are good stockbrokers. I know there are a few. But you know the definition of a stockbroker, don't you?
Sorry, but no,
that's someone who takes his experience and your money and turns it into his money and your experience. Right. That's what a stockbroker is.
It's about what happened to me.
That's what happened to you.
So
what happened to you.
So the book is really the story of how I went from there to here, which is arguably a very different place in my life.
Yeah, it's a great book, and it's something, it's an easy read, too, which is also nice. Now, speaking of easy reads, you're a banker by definition, and I'm a recovering banker, so we are by definition simple-minded. We know that. Your book, Ed, is also an easy read, but it's right on target as well. So you've been at this thing your whole life as I have. Tell me why you wrote this and what you see that people need to know today in particular.
Well, this book is somewhat of a concise financial plan covering, how to increase my income, lowering expenses, saving, investing, getting out of debt, protecting your assets, and then finally the ultimate goal of making money work to you. The thing I do a little different in the book is compare running marathons, which I do as a hobby, with each of these 7 steps. And so it's a concise financial plan, gives you an overview.
Well, I have to tell you this, and you don't know this, but the first program we ever did, which has been more than 20 years ago, before PBS, we did it on anxiety and panic attacks. And we had a guy on the panel who was a psychiatrist, a shrink, who also ran marathons, Ed.
Okay.
And we decided on that program that in itself was a mental illness. Do you know that?
Probably right.
So okay. Having said that, I want to look at graphic number, let's try graphic number 3. about, and it's sort of what you wrote in your book, Ed, about what we can learn from last year, 2008. What can we learn? So look at graphing and
Right. Well, just quickly, these are the things that I think we can learn from a disaster 2008. And I should say too, I've made some big mistakes in my time. I had the misfortune of depending a lot on bank stocks and some of the larger bank stocks. And in hindsight, that was a mistake. I think one of the things we have to learn is face facts. You know, with the market down 50% and people, 10 trillion in losses, 20 to 30 trillion maybe in terms of if you add housing values and all that. It's going to take probably 10 years to get your money back, maybe longer, maybe 20 years. And, money will double. If it's 7% going forward, it would take 10 years to double. And if you're down 50%, that would be the case. So I think, consequently, as of one, you're going to have to plan to work longer, spend less, and save more. And as it relates to a portfolio, I'm saying rebalance your asset allocation down 20% from stocks. And whereas the old rule used to be 120% minus your age, I'm saying 100% minus your age, which would just mean if you were 50, you'd have 50% in stocks. 20, you could have 80% in stocks. So.
Okay, great. Kim, what about what he just said there? Parts of it you agree with, disagree with? Where would you be coming from there?
Well, one of the things that we have to be careful of is fear and greed is our worst enemies. They cause us to do the opposite of what it is that we should be doing. And so our natural tendency is, after the horse is already out the barn door, that we want to slam it shut. I'm a big believer in buying when everyone else is irrationally selling and selling when everyone else is irrationally buying. I wouldn't be decreasing my allocation to stocks right now. I'd be increasing them.
Okay, good. That's a different way of putting it. Now, one of the things, you talk about sort of your 4 steps, Kim, that person should remember in terms of being their own CFO. First of all, tell us what a CFO is and why they need to be one, and then give us a couple of those steps. Sure.
The CFO is the Chief Financial Officer, and the premise is that it's not a lot different than running a company, running your family. If you look at the inflows and outflows over a lifetime, they're not insignificant. And you can take the same principles that you would apply to running a company and apply it to running your family finances. And I would argue that that's the most important job that you will ever hold. Good. Now, I'm going to go to this question right over here in just a minute, but you mentioned at the start of this deal, what's the first thing that people ought to do if they're going to be their own CFO? Well, the very first thing that you need to do is, there's 4 steps. The first one is plan prudently, and I believe it starts with a life plan, and that your life plan dictates your financial plan. If you don't have a sense of the life that you're trying to build and the lifestyle that you want to support, then it's impossible to know what your financial goals should be. So that's step number 1.
That's a good point, is to start with a plan.
Yes.
Hello. All right.
Which doesn't every business run off of a plan, one would hope?
Here are the numbers. 1 out of every 6 businesses, small businesses, has a plan. Only 1 out of 6, which is why a lot of them go broke, I suppose. But the businesses you're talking about that have a CFO and have a plan are the ones that run over years. Let me ask you a question, Dennis. When is the time that you get the most done each year? Anybody? It's the day before you go on vacation, because you have a plan. It's called a to-do list, and you have deadlines in which to accomplish that. So you're suggesting we take more vacations? No, I'm suggesting that we do more planning. Yeah. Okay, good. More planning. Okay, go ahead. Come on, just stay there. I'll come down to you. I like being down here anyway. How's that?
One of the issues in the last 2 weeks have been some people that have unethically stolen people's money, and from what I've read, there were people as early as 1999 who had gut feelings that something wasn't right, but they just kept going along like lemmings. And I'm wondering how do you get enough guts to go with that feeling of, hey, something isn't right, even though all the cool people are doing one thing?
That's a great question. I think she's probably talking about Mr. Madoff, which is a great name for a guy who made off with $37 billion of other people's money. Ed?
Well, in fact, one of the things I said we can learn from 2008 is that, if something's too good to be true, it probably is. And the other thing, I think you do have to somewhat go against the crowd sometime. I think of an experience when I was a kid where I used to play football, my brother and I, with a couple of guys, and I used to be able to fake a lateral, and he'd go for it. Now, the funny thing was that when my brother was out for a pass, I could fake a lateral, he'd still go for it. The point is that we can't just always go with the fake of what people tell us. I think it's very important to get advice, but make the decision that you feel is best for you. By the way, I want to say I agree with Kim on that really normally this is a time to go more in stocks. Normally that's true. But I'll tell you, I'll quote Bill Gross on this, and I feel this, that the chances are probably 9 in 10 that that's right, but there's a 1 chance out of 10 that things will totally implode. That's what worries me, and that's why I'm a little more conservative, and I think we have to have a game plan in case that 1 chance out of 10 happens. This is different. I've been in here since '74, and